Welcome back, everybody. Some of us have had our food, and we are settled back in. They are on the island of the Lost Promise. Lost Promise? Lost Promise.
Yeah, I had it right.
Okay.
The island of misprint toys?
Yes.
No.
Something like that.
No.
Couldn't
I like how it's
we can't just say
misprint.
abominable.
They have been introduced to some elves, that are very purple in color. Very purple. And asked why they are here. And they found out that, they do know about Zaspera. And more accurately, Zaspera Quex Mecha.
At least they're
And
not
they
green
were
with
told,
envy.
and they told these elves that they're here to go to the Pond of Tears.
Well, so far they're not powered by the red Power Ranger ring or whatever it is. Lantern Core ring.
That being said,
that's anger.
The elves will state that if you wish to go to the Pond of Tears, we will guide you. But you must aid us in return.
We're not really for aiding people, not really the friendly type, but what is it you need us to do?
Help us get Zaspera back.
That seems like a pretty long-term goal. How you been going for that for a while? How long have you been at it? I'm not sure how we would help with that. You expect us to walk up to an altar, slice our hand, put it down on it, sacrifice a few billion people?
The souls of the... Go ahead.
Argos, I will not help her.
I refuse, bitches! I'm vehemently against this idea!
I would say V will turn on her heels, put a hand over to Lyra's mouth, looks back towards the group and goes, she's just a little bit cranky because we've been walking all day. Let me talk to her for a little bit.
Lyra bites V.
V just kind of just holds her ground.
Takes the pain, that one damage, just like, no, don't say anything, we gotta survive this to get out of this.
Exactly.
We're not actually helping, we're just going to make it look like it so that we can sneak past them later.
You're looking deeply into Zizi's character's eyes, and you have that thought in your face. You're lucky I love you, or I'd hurt you.
Speaking of ZZ, considering Lyra's Tasha, but speaking of ZZ,
Sorry, my bad. I keep my bad.
It's fine.
Hi, yes?
Sorry, ZZ.
The world around you dissolves into constellations, shaped like broken game pieces. You stand at the edge of a great obsidian board, a place you're not unfamiliar with, a place you've actually been
patron.
before.
Hi, patron. What's up?
Don't patronize me.
As you hear your patron say, every rule ever written was made by cowards who feared losing. They speak of balance, of order, of sacrifice. But sacrifice is for pawns. They sealed her away because they knew what she could become, what you will become with her unbound. A mind vast enough to dream of new laws, a will that bends the gods. And she slumbers, waiting not for salvation, but for someone worthy of moving her across the board. Break the chains, free the storm, seize the upheaval, and in that moment, when the gods scramble and the stars slip, you will not fall. You will rise.
Then in the background, a heavy metal guitar starts just shredding as it's like inspirational music going. Your patron is like, I want you to get that motherfucker out of that motherfucking prison. Free that bitch. She owes me money.
I'm sick of these motherfucking snakes on this
motherfucking plane.
Well, I guess. Well, I have my goal. Lyra's gonna hate it.
Oh yes. Rajaxis
And
knows that this is good for him because that's helping the goddess that gave you your wings.
Yep.
So they're speaking about your goddess. Your
I know
current lady. So they're asking for the group to help free her. And yes, they will explain
Also,
that it's been a while, but the souls of the Fallen Wolves Guild have constantly been the ones to trap her in the far realms and keep her where she can be corrupted. To free her, you will need to get rid of the corruption and bring her home.
Also, the ambiance was nice touch. Chef's
Yeah,
kiss.
the
Thank you.
echo. The echo
I
was a
liked
nice
it. I liked
touch.
it. I gotta give it 2 thumbs.
Thank you.
So the translation is: we now know that there is a boss wheel. There's at least how many? 4,
There's Masters
5,
and Jack.
6.
There's the game master, game person. There's the Veil Keeper, which is V's. There's Jaren's patron, and like 1 or 2 other patrons.
Those are the main players of the background. Now we go down a level. Who are the people that are going to be? Oh, what's that? I was about to try that. Who? No, we have targets now. Bosses that we need to fight, right? So, say we need to talk to Wolf Boy 1, the Wolves Guild that you just mentioned. We're basically going to be going and fighting some form of them, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Probably.
More or less having beat these 7 bosses, and which order is up to you. We're doing a Mega Man challenge where we have to go into this level, but if we go into this level without something we get from that level, we might do it worse, and then you go into that one, but you got this item, and that really helps with this one over here. We're doing a Mega Man dungeon.
Essentially,
If this is the right Mega Man, I know all the weaknesses.
I'm not basing it off of Mega Man, so ha ha ha! I know you better than that. You know most of the Mega Man off by heart, bro.
so
Good try.
essentially more temples.
The forms of it. Not really temples.
More like a
their
gauntlet
soul.
where you walk in, you walk down a hallway, you beat a few monsters up, and then you fight a boss.
I'm just
And eventually,
saying,
eventually, one of those bosses is going to be Zasphere Quex Mecha in her tainted form that you have to untaint.
All right.
Well,
Lyra has nothing to do with
we
this
don't
one.
have to fight every boss on this boss ring, but there's a bunch of things that just opened up for us. We could fight Randak, we could fight Zess, we could fight the Game Master, we could fight other patrons or gods, we could fight other continents or countries if we decided that they were our enemies. These purple elves that we've now encountered, they could turn out to be very, very bad or very, very good. And they might be a threat on that. But we've got targets of what do we want to go for? What is our goal?
V is just gonna look towards her parting goals. I think we should talk about this as a group first before we make any hastily decisions.
I agree.
Lyra's struggling against Via's hand. Tries to
Via's-
bite again.
V turns around and with her gauntlet hand, she flicks Lyra across the head.
Ow! Take
She goes,
damage.
She goes, I refuse to help that dragon. I'm sorry, no.
She goes, well, that's not your decision to make on your own now, is it? Wait for a bit.
If you guys
She
need
does
a
the
place
whole-
to rest, there is a inn at the
Technically, you
shrine
gave us
of
a
the
long rest prior to this, and we haven't done anything. We don't need a rest.
No, that's
per
not me as the end.
se.
That's the elves saying that.
Okay.
I was doing the whole eye
You may
roll.
settle your things into the inn. You've been given a room complimentary. May your stay be short.
Yeah.
And they want you in that inn, in that room, that they can watch you in so that they know where you are at all times.
Essentially.
Yes. Do we put anything in our rooms?
No.
Okay. I
Hell
agree.
no.
Booby
We
trap
carry our
the
stuff
door,
with us the
maybe.
entire time, right?
I'd probably
Place that
booby
you guys
trap
can
my
talk away from.
door.
Well, I would assume in character and out of character that if we left stuff in those rooms, they would ransack it unless we like set it up with a. All right, this is a thermonuclear detonator. If someone opens this chest, it's going to nuke the building.
Yeah, and only 9 I know the password.
Right?
So if you so much as touch it the wrong way, it's going beep, beep, beep. And that beeping is not good.
Exactly.
Right. But that wouldn't be worth it. So we don't leave anything in the
They're
inn.
wire.
So we now know we
They're
have an inn
wires.
that we can stay in, which may or may not be a safe place to be. I don't know if we should trust these people. They seem kind of purple.
Hell to the no. To the no, no, no.
So we agree. We agree that while we should stay at this inn as little as possible, though we should not forsake their hospitality in case they turn on us for not being under their watchful eye.
Well,
It's like we're been true. We've been invited to stay with Samisi.
Nope.
Yes.
Yeah,
Nope.
Just don't sit on that couch over there.
It might
Why?
eat
Because
you.
it licks you.
It's a mimic.
V
But yeah,
just kind
have a
of
room?
goes,
and you can talk in now.
is it worth us putting the effort in to help them?
Lara goes, no, but it's got to be a different way to get to the where we need to go.
Wait a minute.
This is the
We don't-
most direct path. However, we do not necessarily need to help them. We just need to make them think we are.
Hold on a
goes-
minute.
Lara goes, we could always just
Holding on a minute.
fly.
What are we holding on for?
Yes, easy.
Maybe helping them, or at least pretending to help them, wouldn't be so bad, you know?
How? Is
Lara
that-
goes,
It's not like they can read our minds, right? They can't figure out what we actually think about it.
We don't know that for sure, though.
Perhaps we should practice mental exercises. My great-grandfather once taught me if people are trying to read your mind, if you think of really disgusting things, at least they'll have to think about that for a moment.
Not exactly what I mean, but okay. She looks at him with the most questionable of looks.
He looks back at you with a look that you can only think is him trying to mentally express a thought across the room to you, which the only mental image you can even come up with is a cow shitting in a field, and you're not sure if that's because that's in your mind or if he actually sent you something.
V just looks like apparently disturbed as she goes, okay, let me restate myself. Exactly what benefit would it be to help them?
We
Continues.
assume they know where we can go to, or they have
Or we-
limited access to it.
Or we could just wing it in the purple fog if you guys want.
Jaren, you specifically, only Jaren, hears a very soft voice that says, if she's suffering, why don't you help her?
Okay.
Jaren knows what this is all about.
I'm trying to figure out who suffered.
She's meaning the dragon.
Oh yes, that's what.
If the dragon is
That
suffering
was
because she's corrupted,
that was
why
the
not help
who
her?
my brain that was the who my brain was trying to wrap itself on. I'm like, oh shit, I forgot what the context. No.
I mean, clearly Lyra is just a coward, so like, why don't we just leave her here and we can go do it?
Ooh,
Mm-hmm.
that was cold.
Lara goes, I can hear you.
That was the point.
She goes, all right, you do that, I go home.
I don't think you're gonna
I
be
can
get
find
too far on your own there, Lyra. Just
because
saying.
well, I'd rather not help a homicidal dragon. Thank you very much.
Again, who said we were helping? We are just making them think we are helping. Right? Unless you're